or known as Ashwin Moss. I would like to call myself. Okay, so I love replicating reality. So when I'm like roaming around here and there, I just look at stuff, how things are looking, and what can I write in shader to make that in the game. So this is a small team. Actually, not part of team. These are not just friends. So we have this same passion for games. So these are the people who I have when I want to talk something technical or in art style. So they are testers, 3D modelers, artists, all kind of people. So friends are very important in this case. So the talk is about how we create illusions. So as we know, video games are just video, and the approach is to render them at 60 FPS at a time. So there are videos which are being manipulated at the action of the player. So this is what something we imagine the camera of a game to look like. So there is a camera in a game object or something that is looking at the environment from different angles, going here and there, roaming, or having a focus at something. But in reality, there is nothing like that. In shader side, in rendering pipeline, there is just a small window that goes nowhere, and it just sticks. Like it differs from rendering pipeline to render pipeline. So Vulkan or OpenGL or DirectX might have some different size of window or length of window, but the window is definitely there. There's nothing going here and there. Instead, what happens is when your camera wants to move ahead, instead of that, the whole world comes towards you. So you get the illusion of that I'm moving in the world. So that's one thing. If you want to look left or right in the camera, so instead of like your camera looking left or right, we rotate the whole world around the window. So you get the illusions of world being rotated. So just like that, zooming is when something is like far from the camera, we scale it down to give that this illusion of perspective that like just like in the real world. Otherwise, if you remove that, you will get the what we know as orthographic camera. So there won't be any perspective. So when you have a rifle or something, you want to right click and zoom into something, nothing happens. It's just the camera is still there, the window is still there. Now the objects who are like further away getting scaled, so you get the illusion of zoom. So actually in rendering, there is nothing like camera. Camera is just a collection of floating points or decimal points. It's a matrix we call projection matrix. So it is 4x4 grid of floating point values. And most of them are like just zero, so we only like use 6 or 7 values to get the whole perspective, far click, near click kind of things. Also, there's funny thing in game that user don't realize that culling is there. So whatever is in front of the window, that's the only part that exists. So everything that is behind the window, that is on the other edge of the window, does not get rendered. So we cull each and every thing. So they don't exist. So but they give the illusions that there is. So now being about objects, so what we think of object is light, that light comes from a source, reflect on the objects and then enter in our eyes, so we get the object. But in game development, it's nothing like that. Instead, we have objects and they decide what they want to look like. So they are provided with the information that where is the light near you, and they have to decide what they should look like. So if I can definitely create a game object which want to look dark irrespective of light, and if it goes in dark, it should become like bright. So light does nothing, it's just a small collection of values that goes to object, and just object decides how it's going to look like. So light is just an illusion as well. So how we create the illusion is very simple. The triangle actually check if it is facing towards the light, it should get a white tone, or otherwise it will get a darker tone. So this is the only code which is called NDL, normal to dot product with light. So it's a basically simple mathematical operation which gives you like positive or negative value or zero value. So positive values represents brightness, which get the illusion of that the object is being lit from the top left side of the screen. Okay, so if you want to create something immersive, we just remove the light equation from it. So it becomes unlit, but the environment is lit. When something is unlit, it looks like it is being immersive. If you want a tone shading, you can just simply sharp this highlight or dark shadow of it, and it looks like toning. So fog is another illusion that we create. So there is nothing in between the world and there is nothing like air. So instead, what we do is we check what is the distance from the camera of every pixel, and we based on the distance we blend it with a color, whatever the color of the fog is. So it's just purely illusion. There is nothing like fog. There is nothing in the middle. There is no air, nothing scattered. Another thing which is smoothing. So we have a fixed resolution of textures, right? So this floor have a texture of maybe 1K or 2K textures, but as I go further from the floor will squish. So because we are scaling down, so things appear like this messy, and we get a bad shading. To smooth it up, what we do is we take a texture and we store half resolutions of textures till it becomes a single pixel. So that's why what you see, the size of the texture is not exactly what goes to the GPU. So we store all these different half resolutions of the textures as well. So smoothing is just an illusion that we create from reducing the resolutions. Oh, okay, that's all. I thought the presentation was bigger. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, please.
So, the explanation that you gave, what sort of challenges is this created in rendering for VR? Because now you're rendering for two cameras or two windows. So, any idea about that?
It does not create any challenges. The fact that we are choosing this approach, this is very counterintuitive, right? There is nothing like camera, there is a fixed window, there is no light, actually nothing falling on object. So this is the technique. We do this to make it performant, to reduce the number of calibrations. So in VR, what we do is we create a differentiator which try to render some environment from a different scale. It's another illusion. It imagines there are two windows. Just split the render into two windows and then project on your individual eyes. So the approach remains the same. It just goes to VR as well. Nothing different. Yeah. I think that's right. Thank you. Oh yes.
So if in the environment there are two people,
Yeah.
so there's one person here, one person here. They're both having their visuals being rendered. So the space between them, there's nothing over there.
Yeah, that's not.
So if someone is here, and in this middle spot, no one is watching. So nothing is being rendered. This is basically nothing.
Yeah. So which is whatever the object is not contributing to the camera or the window, we try to cull it, we remove it from the rendering pipeline altogether. So the better algorithms, the better design and better tricks we have to remove things from the window. So that doesn't get renders.
Because I've seen some version of it where the ground is there, the assets are being removed. So if you look at an asset, you can see it.
Yeah.
If you're looking away, it's not there, but the ground is there.
Okay, so what happens is, let's say we have this ground and it's a separate game object. So if my camera is looking at this direction, so the ground is not coming in my eyes. Right? So we will cull it, we will remove it from the rendering, the cube that we have for the rendering part.
Understood. So you remove absolutely everything.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but if I'm looking even a slide, even in the corner of this floor, the whole floor will be rendered because it's being a part of same triangles. We cannot individually color the triangles. The whole object will go, but it won't contribute to the screen because it's not part of my window. So it will have some overhead. So what we try to do is split them as much as we can.
So this is like saving the GPU.
Yeah, it is saving the GPU at the cost of CPU because CPU is trying to detect what will be rendered or what will not.
So the speed is coming from the CPU, the speed of rendering, but
Yes.
the overall load on the GPU is less.
Yeah, it's the whole effort is to reduce as much as we can the load of the GPU. Yes.
So right now we are seeing a lot of work being done in AI. And we suppose there is a case, maybe a year down the line or something, that AI can be part of this rendering pipeline and optimize it further, or do you think we've already done most of the optimization?
No, we have done a lot of the automation. This process is like rasterization. So we try to create a painting at every frame. But now AI is also already the part of it. So the part that AI comes in, we render the whole. We create this window of a smaller size. So quarter size or half the size. and then AI, which becomes the rendering become easier, and then we give that window to the AI to scale it up and fill in all the sharpness and details and all. So AI is already doing its part. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Now we have Rakshak talking about automated level generation in puzzle games.
Alright. Hey guys, I'm Rakshak. I'm a hobbyist game developer, and the description basically says, yeah. So it's basically two of us, me and my friend Vikas. We make simple, casual 2D puzzle games, right? Our specialty is, well, despite aside from the fact that lactose and gluten intolerance, that is a pain really. For those of you who can appreciate it.
Is that the name of your company?
Yeah, lactose and gluten intolerant. Yes, we are playing it. Great observation. So, yeah, what I wanted to basically talk about was puzzle games, right? Everybody loves puzzle games. We had showcases also of a couple of them, I think, right? So, like I said, me and my friend, we are also into developing much simpler versions of these puzzle games, essentially 2D basically, right? And what I want to talk about is how do we essentially make levels, right? I suppose I can imagine that when you guys are making levels and you have a brilliant concept in mind, the first question comes that, okay, I have the concept, I have the gameplay, how do I make levels? How do I make this game interesting from level 1 to 10 to 100, right? So that's the part I want to touch upon, right? Level generation, as I said. So, everyone here knows Chirag, right? Chirag Chopra.
Yeah.
Where is he? Chirag. Three cheers for Chirag. Woo! Right. Now, this is my talk, but the reason I mention him is he made a puzzle game called Possession, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, it's a brilliant game, right? Now, he made something like what? 12 levels, and it took him a year, right? One freaking year to make 12 levels. To be honest, I think it's even less than that. Now, even me and my friend are also making puzzle games, and we also started carving levels with our own two hands, much like the gentleman here did. But, well, like 36 levels to game launched here, but, so I thought that I also want to make really awesome levels, right, like he did. But, well, I mean, Chirag is Chirag, no one can copy this guy. So, I thought, well, what if my program could essentially make levels for my game, right? So, that is why I wanted to touch upon handcrafted levels, much like this guy made, which are supremely interesting, dynamic, right? But they take time. You have to hand it to him. However, if you are making simpler puzzle games, that's where the scope lies for generating levels algorithmically, right? So this is the portion that I come in, and I want to essentially show you a couple of games, and then I want to show you how do we build a level generator for those games. Of course, it's fairly technical, but you might still get some idea of it, right? As to how it's happening. So, well, actually, I should probably start giving some background as to the kind of games that I made. Amongst these puzzle games that you see on screen, I was lucky enough that some of these got featured on the App Store. One of them actually became Game of the Day. And then me and my friend started, getting this knack of making these puzzle games and then figuring out, okay, if these are the elements, how do we make levels, how do we make a lot of them, how do we ship them out quickly, right? So on your screen, you'll see different screenshots of different games that we've launched so far. What is common amongst all of them? Anybody? Nalin?
They're all puzzle games.
They're all puzzle games. Brilliant, man. Genius. Anything else?
You all have programmatically generated levels.
वो तो है ही obviously.
You made them all.
That's my talk, man.
You made them all with Coco's JavaScript.
No, that is also
They are all grid based.
correct. So they're all grid based. So there's a grid here, right? This one's a donut delivery packing game. What happens is customers want their donuts in a certain pattern, right? Don't ask me why. That's the theme of the game. So the customer says, I want my donuts to be packed like this. That's where it hits the spot. And I'm like, okay. So you get presented a random grid of donuts, and then you're supposed to swipe around and make the formation as as the one that's shown on the top. This one here, right? The only one with a GIF there. Again, 2D grid based. The guy is running around a grid of tiles and he has to reach the prize, right? But there are obstacles in between. Similarly, there was swipe trick swipe tricks. It was pretty much the same concept, but in a very abstract art, right? And then of course some newer puzzles that we're working on. They're more around matching a group of objects that are similar, Candy Crush vibes, but again 2D grid based. Now, all of them being grid based as they all actually are following one, you can say, like a pseudocode, like an algorithm that each of the games follow to be able to build levels. What is that algorithm essentially? So you take a grid, keep your character somewhere, keep the destination somewhere else, add a bunch of obstacles, blockers, right? And then you try to figure out a path. Can your character get from A to B, right, in the minimum number of moves? Or let's say minimum number of moves is not your concern, you just want to see whether a solution is possible or not, right? As I spoke of all these points, the last one here, where you figure out the path, that is essentially the secret sauce, right? Now, how do you do that? So, I'm sure anyone here who's done computer science 101, those who haven't, it's okay, it's boring. But those who have, you would know that there was a technique that was taught to us, right? It was called BFS and BFSS. Anybody know what these are? Yeah. Awesome. Red first search or dead first search. Now, I hated these concepts when they were being taught. I could not hate anything more than I hated this shit, right? But turns out it is extremely important. How so? Because let's say you start in that grid I told you, right? Let's say you start from point number 1. What are the possible? Let's take an example of a game that everybody knows. Say chess. Who was here making chess? Where is the pen? I'll tell you how he's making puzzles. Right? What he'll do is he'll put a piece somewhere, right? Anywhere in the grid. Now from that point he'll say, where all can I go? He'll say, I can go north, south, east, west, right? Then he stores those positions, right? With every move that he makes, his enemies will also make a move, correct? He'll save the entire configuration in any data structure format that you like, okay? Doesn't matter which one. What he'll do is, he'll save the state of the game, pretending that the character has moved north, right? When he's moved north, what are the new positions available? Then he assumes that the character has moved into any one of those new positions, right? Similarly, the enemies would have also corresponded. So he keeps saving the state of the game till he is able to solve the level, right? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the magic of algorithmic level generation, right? So, since we are talking about puzzle games, I wanted to throw a concept at you. I'm not sure if this picture is all that clear to you, but essentially, there's a thief who's standing in the grid, right? Every time the thief moves, all enemies in the grid, they turn 90 degrees, right? If you come into the line of fire of any enemy, you die, right? Sort of like Hitman Go vibes, right? You guys have played. So, let me show you what the editor for this game looks like, right? Similarly was first 5 clicks also. And so this is essentially what these editors look like, right? What I do is I never start building the game. I first build their editors, right? That's something I would encourage you guys also to do. I can't say for sure if this is the best practice, but this is what I do, right? So I would have an editor here, right? I'd have options to add, say, walls, lockers, teleportation, key and lock, connected pairs. These are elements you'll find in any puzzle game, right? But I would write the code for these things, add them into a grid, put my player anywhere in the grid, and see if a path can be made that the player can collect the key, avoid the enemies, collect the diamond, and then reach the destination, right? I'm not doing anything here. But anyway, I am. But the heavy lifting is being done by the generators. If you're making puzzle games, your life will be heck of a lot easier if you build these, basically, right? So, how about we actually look at a generator, right? I'm not sure how this is going to work out, but what's already? Okay.
If you can do one level.
Okay. Alright. Here you go. My apologies.
If it's an unpublished page, you'll have to
It's actually on my laptop. Nonetheless, doesn't matter. Thank you so much. I do have my laptop, but I guess time's up. So on my laptop, I could have shown you the generator, but nonetheless, thank you so much. People, questions, if any? No questions, okay.
So you just mentioned about like maze generation or level generation with EFS, DFS.
Yeah,
But there's also like ways to do without applying those two as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. There
So
are way more complicated stuff, but I guess it's partly about keeping things intuitive, easier for anybody to do, and then the more complicated features of data structures are meant for more complicated games, right? So even Minecraft is an automated level generated game, but that doesn't work on LFS, DFS, right? So
I had a follow-up question actually.
yeah.
So in your game, are the levels pre-made or are they made dynamically in runtime?
Great question. So, you cannot rely on an algorithm to spit out a level that will be perfect. Mentioned on the second slide actually, even the level generators, even if they have the power to generate like hundreds of levels, you still have to see that they make sense, that they're not all too easy. That is the drawback of level generators, that there will be a heavy amount of predictability because you wrote a logic, because all levels will follow that logic. So you start tracking levels, you'll see that they are all following the same pattern, right? What helps is to have different elements. So key and lock, teleportation, right? Connected bases, these are the sort of elements that will help you make different kinds of levels. But each element, levels generated for that element will all probably be somewhat similar, right? So that's where manual tweaking is required. Right? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You mentioned DFS and DFS. In your example, you only showed a DFS example.
Yes.
So can you share something, some DFS example also as related to this?
There is, if you were, like, for instance, if you were doing a chess game, or any 2D grid-based puzzle game for that matter, both algorithms work perfectly. They will both have more or less on a larger scale of levels, they will have the same level of complexity, right? It's your own approach, how you want to figure out the solution. If I'm standing here, I want to reach to the prize, avoid the enemies, I can take both techniques. I can see what are my nearest places to travel to. I can pick any one and keep on going there. That would be your depth for searching. Or I can say, first I'll evaluate all my neighboring positions and then only I'll move to the next step, right? I like doing that more, right? Because I arrive at the solution sooner, in more cases, right?
Okay, so you're saying you prefer BFS. Well, thanks.
Depending, I was kidding, I am not telling anybody else.
Maybe. Basically, that's not how my view works. And if it were a turn-based game, then sure. But it's this is the question which I really wanted to ask, and I just saw this topic. And how would you come up with a level generator for a non-turn-based game? That's what my view is at the time.
If you can maintain the state of your game, whether turn-based or not, the games always have a state. Even in your games, the enemies were reacting to your movement in a way. In the trailer that I saw, at least, right?
That was alright.
In the trailer that I saw, when your character moved, that's when the enemy decided that he wants to smack you.
That's one of the ways.
Yeah. So, however complicated or however different feature sets that your puzzle game may have, essentially, if you're able to save states of the game and capitalize on that, you can generate this question. The biggest games, right, Minecraft and all, they're heavily complicated. But although they have more about generating worlds than levels per se, but yeah, it falls more or less in the same category about saving states, right? If you save the state of your puzzle game at every move that character is making, you just might be able to generate, right?
Discuss this.
Sure. Alright. Thank you.
Thanks, Lakshman. Always the life of the party. Next we have Nikhil Malankar, all the way from Mumbai with his studio called
First of all, I'd like to thank Chirag and Just for organizing this event. So a round of applause for you guys. So I saw a post about this event on LinkedIn, I guess, and I signed up for it. So the idea initially was to actually replicate my same talk that I gave at IGDC over here. But Chirag mentioned it had a 10-minute time limit. So I just titled my talk as Open World Game Dev in 10 minutes. Now, in all honesty, I cannot teach you everything about open world game dev in 10 minutes. So I'll just highlight a couple of pointers. But before that, I will give a small introduction about myself. So yeah, my name is Nikhil Malankar. I'm an entrepreneur, a YouTuber, author, gamer, and more. So I've authored 3 books on game development as well. So if at all you guys are interested and want to start your journey in game dev, You can check out my books; they are available on Amazon as well. And I have a small YouTube channel as well. So if you guys are not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. So, general question: Mumbai Indians के बारे में सुना है? Okay. Raise of hands, please. Okay, जिसने नहीं सुना है, just YouTube Mumbai Indians का trailer. It's a small 38-second trailer, which we are not going to play over here today. But we'll be seeing some interesting videos as well behind the scenes. So let's talk about the idea actually. So there's a quick story about this idea. In fact, back in 2019, there was an event happening in the Novotel Hotel where Chirag was also present. And Chirag, he had given a small assignment during that event to come up with any game idea. And I had this particular game idea from almost a decade, so it's a very long journey. So I presented that game over there at that very event as well, if you remember. And that was great response, and to have come from there till here, it's a great experience. And during this entire journey, we failed countless number of times. So it was not like we started off our journey with Mumbai Gullies. It was just an idea, but we had to go through a lot of other experimentation. We have developed almost more than 150 plus games to date. So it is actually a collective experience of all these years that has led us to where we are at right now. Grabbing experience, that is also very important. So I started this company when I was all of 18. So I had no idea how to make games and no idea how to make money. And this is something I realized 3 years later in my journey. So I also grabbed a little bit of experience. I happened to work under an industry veteran. Then there was a lot of learning, then there was a lot of earning, and then there's a lot of executing. So just to give you a sense in terms of perspective of numbers, I moved into operations of my company in 2018, towards the end of 2018. Before that, I was employed for 2 years. I gained some experience, and before that, I had started this company foolishly, having no experience. So we, this time around, the focus was on earning, because I realized if I wanted to execute on this particular dream, I needed access to a lot of capital, because a game of this scale needs a lot of people to build it. So, as I said, year one of our operations, we did about 20 lakhs in terms of gross revenue, and I'm just sharing these numbers publicly with you guys. The year after that was the pandemic, and we hit a home run. So we 10x'd our revenue. So from 20 lakhs, we grew to 2.3 crores in terms of gross revenue. This is just through pure servicing, because what I realized is, if we were to make it big, we have to learn doing all the hard work by ourselves. So we did a lot of servicing work. And that is essentially what helped us reach up to this level. And then the idea was that, I always wanted to make this game, but, having an idea and actually turning it into a product might not be the same case. And it might just so happen that an idea that you have might not be accepted in the market as you imagine it to be. So we kind of, took all that capital and created a small trailer, 38-second trailer. And that's when we realized that we were going to take a huge leap of faith on the project, and we would need access to a lot more capital as well. So more on that later. But this is essentially the journey. So we had to first establish credibility, because our studio had never created a game of this scale. It is a PC and console game. Okay. How did I do that? By doing a lot of YouTube. So I put out videos on the internet about how people can actually enter into this industry, and that kind of helped me establish my credibility in the market. That in turn helped me also in the process of fundraising. So in the year 2021, we raised a round of 4 crore rupees from Indian investors, and in fact it was such a crazy journey, because we were actually one of the first few developers from India to attempt a game of this scale. So it was very difficult for us to convince a lot of investors. We were ridiculed in the market as well, like how can you guys make this and all. But you only need a couple of people to take a leap of faith on you, and the rest everything will fall in its place. We have to also maintain a public image. So me being the face of the company, I had to be very careful of what kind of content we put out, and how we kind of position ourselves in the industry. So very funny story, like since I'm also an active YouTuber, there are a lot of subscribers. So whenever I have to put out any statement, I have to be very careful and double check myself. One such incident happened on 15th of August. I was wishing people Happy Independence Day. So I put out a post on my community tab saying Happy Independence Day to all my subscribers. One of the guy got really offended. He's like, Independence Day सिर्फ तुम्हारे subscribers का है क्या? So like that, you have to be very careful when you are maintaining your public image, because anything that you say can and probably will go against you, even though you have the best intent. So community building was also one big angle of this particular journey, because our competitors are like really big names, and I don't want to take any names on the stage right now because again, maintaining public image. But we had to build a very strong community around the game. And what really helped is again lots of YouTubing. So because I was able to garner that initial audience, it was very easy for me to build this community. And being ambitious is just a very non-hurtful way of telling that you are actually being crazy. So we heard this a lot, like you guys are too ambitious, and some people were candid enough to say that you guys are just being extremely crazy. In order to make a game like this, you need to have a strong pipeline, and you need to make sure that you do not have any kind of leakages. So you need the right set of people, you need the right set of tools. This includes, we are using this tool, Game Engine, Unreal Engine 5. So we were very clear on day one that we want to build out a game that has realistic graphics, and with Unreal Engine, it just helps us get that things right from day one. Right set of planning, so you have to maintain a lot of Excel sheets, a lot of data has to be crunched in. You need a right set of patience as well, because a game like this, it takes years and years to build. It doesn't happen overnight. You need the right set of delays as well. So we had announced earlier on that we would probably be launching the game in 2023, and when 2023 came by, we realized that it's just not possible. So we had to delay the game multiple times, and it will probably in all honesty get delayed further on as well. Right set of frustrations, obviously, because we are making such a big game. We have to also look at the financial aspect of it. So we have to be on a constant fundraising loop as well, because a game like this, it takes a lot of money. The 4 crores that we raised last round are all over, gone, done and dusted. Now we are raising another round. So if any one of you is an investor over here, please. In fact, after this event, we are actually heading over to a fundraising event. So वहाँ से कुछ ना कुछ पैसे बन जाएंगे. And right set of lots of things. Okay, already got my cue to deal. One thing I want to, just make sure, let this sink in. A lot of people have a doubt. A lot of people think that being a solo developer, they can create a AAA title. It is a huge myth. And this is probably, like, you guys might have different opinions on this, but this is just true, A lot of people say that Minecraft was created by a single developer. It was back in the day, when it was an indie project. Now, Minecraft can be termed as a AAA game now. And a lot of people have a misconception that AAA games mean fancy graphics. It's not just fancy graphics, it's a combination of a lot of things and a lot of processes involved in the entire pipeline. So you definitely need a team to create a AAA game, because there's just too many processes involved. There's dialogue writing, there's graphics that you have to take care of, there's code, then there's a sound that you have to take care of, then tons of things. So solo developers cannot actually make a AAA game. Probably with AI that will change in the future, but as of this moment, it's just not possible to make a AAA game as a solo developer. And so life is a journey, enjoy the trip. So while developing the game, we come across with a lot of glitches. So this is just an honest screenshot from within the game, and I have a couple of videos as well over here. I think those videos didn't play. Should I? Oh, just okay. I wanted to share some glitch videos with you guys. So probably afterwards, if at all we are able to get some time, I'll pull them through. Which brings me to my current status, current progress. So that is 30% is what we are at right now. Again, let this sink in with regards to all the delays and all that we are going to probably experience. But to get to 30% is what took us the longest time. So now the things that are actually pending are essentially assets. So there's a lot of cars that we have to create, there's a lot of weapons, there's a lot of characters we have to create. So 30% is essentially the foundation that we believe we've got it right. and our story is locked in. Then we have our game design document that is also locked in. Then some basic core mechanics are done, and the remaining 70% I believe should be a breeze because there will be some very exciting process when mocap will be involved, etc., etc. So that's about it for my talk. Of course, 10 minutes does give no justice to what I wanted to actually talk about, but this is just something that I thought would be valuable. So thank you all for listening to me.
I'm not asking something, I'm just saying something that with all the YouTubing and everything, like as everybody knows about your game, I think you already know this, that your game is pretty much the face of Indian game dev industry.
Yeah.
And I really hope you do well and this game becomes a really big hit.
Yeah.
It represents all of us and we all feel connected with your game.
Yeah.
So all the best for your game.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing fundraising? Is it that you're taking donations or is it that you're selling parts of your company?
So we are fundraising via equity. So we have a set of investors that we are kind of reaching out to. Yeah. And last round we raised from Indian Angel Network and Mumbai Angels Network. This round our existing investors are participating and we are reaching out to some more new angel networks and VCs.
So the investors are only focused on the profits from this game, or is it that they push you to expand the scale of your services projects and your headcount and all, so that you are much more valuable as a company apart from the game you work on?
Yeah, so fortunately as of now we haven't faced that pressure yet, but now that new investors will come in, I'm not sure how it will perform in the future. However, we've been very clear from day one that this is essentially something that will take time, and even the new investors understand this. On the same side, they also understand that the service side of the business and the mobile games will probably not earn enough revenue to actually cover the cost of the development of this game. So there's no pressure as such on that. The pressure is essentially on making sure that we get this game right. Yeah.
So one final question. I've never heard of Mobile Gullies before.
Okay.
So I can see it's an open terrain car driving game based in Mumbai. So in one or two lines, what is the objective of the game? Or what is the game?
So it's a narrative-based story game. It's a role-playing game. You start off as a protagonist and you rise from rags to riches. And it's got a lot of Mumbai Tadka, Bollywood drama, etc., etc.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Yes.
So you said that you did a lot of services work before starting this project, and I'm just gonna assume, because of the talent pool of the country as well, that a lot of that was in Unity, perhaps.
Correct.
So, and you made a decision to make this game in Unreal.
Yeah.
So how was the process of transitioning between the engines?
Actually, I did have a small experience back in 2016 to develop an Unreal Engine, so that was very handy. Our company was actually one of the first few companies in India to have made an Unreal Engine based game for the iOS platform. It was a game called Special Ops. It's no longer active on the Apple App Store, but that is something that I was heavily involved with personally, so I knew how to navigate the engine. But apart from that, majorly we were primarily focused on Unity. Now, the way that we are doing our hirings is we are looking at people who are already working on Unreal Engine, and that kind of helps us expedite the process.
Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Do we have time for one more question? Okay.
Hey, so you said you started I remember you started your YouTube channel several years ago when I subscribed, and one of the very few devlogs from India, right?
Yeah.
So apart from the YouTube channel playing a role in promoting your game, have you seen other advantages? So like in hiring, in finding interns, or in finding partnerships? Could you share what other benefits you got?
Yeah, so definitely I think YouTube has played a major role in wherever I'm at right now, because it not just helped create that kind of impact, but it also, the way that I look at it is, the reason why I started doing YouTube videos is because that was an area where I personally struggled in. There was not a lot of knowledge around in the internet. So I think another thing that I actually personally gained was the goodwill of people in the community. So I think that is very valuable for me. Yeah. Thank you guys. So guys, those videos I'll show after this final talk. Thank you guys.
Thanks. coming from Mumbai and doing this talk, taking out the time. We really appreciate it. We have just one more, the last micro talk for the day. Another guest from Pune who wanted to share a bit about his pipelines from a game called Indus. They are making a battle royale based on Indo-futuristic India. So Sujit Kumar from Super Gaming making Indus.
Check. So hey guys, I'm Suchi from Super Gaming. I'm technical director of this project called Indus Battle Royale. But I would quickly want to talk about like how is this relevant and how am I relevant and why am I here. So actually I'm from around here. Started my journey in 2012 by going to this game design college called DSK in Pune. Me and Chirag done long back, like off and off. We have worked a lot together. At some point, kind of graduated from more indie space to after a lot of burnout and stuff. Tried to find like take a break, and then 2-3 years later, this is the product of that. Whatever happened afterwards. So even though this is a micro talk, the takeaways are gonna be more macro. Like there were some really great talks about like nitty-gritties of game development, the skills, the shaders, the procedural generation, all of that. I think there was good overview of open world game development as well. But this is something along those lines. Like my journey personally, like starting from very small scale in terms of as an indie developer and then operating on a bit higher scale, in a more studio structure, and how does skills translate, what kind of pipelines and workflows are there, and how are they relevant back in like indie space, smaller space. So I'm here today to more of like share that personal experience and the transition that was there, like all of a sudden from a two-man team called Dropout Games that we operated for 4-5 years, did some fun puzzle games, then broke apart. Then all of a sudden now we are here. Like I'm here, my friend is like gone to Sweden. That stuff happens. So what are my personal takeaways? And if I ever get to back operate more like how I started, how a lot of people back in the back are currently operating as, with great aspirations of doing more bigger teams, studio structure, all of that. What would be the key applications I personally think would be really valuable? But before that, let's look at the product of that process, that learning. So we'll quickly look at the trailer of Indus Battle Royale. This is pre-alpha gameplay footage, and here it goes. A bunch of Indian game devs for the world. So I will quickly cover like what is the tech spec of the game looking like. It's coming to mobile, PC and consoles sometime later this year. We'll have soft launch of the game in select regions on mobile, and later sometime next year we are going to consoles and PC. It's an authentic online shooter, real-time multiplayer. Features high player count, 60 to 100 players, large scale maps and like super massive 16 square kilometer of map.
And currently, one of the very big technical challenges that we have to face, and there is something I personally feel is not something Western developers have to tackle a lot, is support for low-end device. Like our market is economical, it's very budget-conscious market, and within mobile space, like if you are looking at all the top-tier games like Apex Legends, they don't even support like low-end device, the majority of devices that are out there in the Indian market, but this is like majority of our market. So we have to crack some really complex technical problems for the mobile for our kind of market, Latam, Brazil, all of that. So that's like one specific thing that I like putting there. And then I will quickly come to there are only 2-3 major takeaways. So whoever is from engineering background, software developers, programmers, they know the term DevOps, developer operations, is like philosophy, paradigms, and principles of how you build your software, how you build your tech, how you run your engineering pipelines. Something we came up after a lot of grind with internally at Indus, which operates like an independent studio within Super Gaming, which is a bigger org, was game DevOps, the technical process of how we are building Indus. And there's a very big learning here, which I'm even projecting back to like how I personally was operating in my indie phase in terms of think of any simple ideas. Whenever we are thinking of games, it's all about entertainment, it's all about creativity. We are always so tunnel vision in that micro ideas. A lot of times we lose focus of a bigger picture that it all needs to end up like reaching in the hands of players, So we love our tools. We like development. Game developers are focused on development, right? The first stage of the building a game as a product. So Engine, Visual Studio, Adobe Suite, all of the DCC tools is where we like personally to put a lot of our energy into. And if you're working in a company, I wouldn't use the studio term just yet, is in a bigger company, let's say something like Dream 11, a lot of this is offset onto the engineering team, like building, testing, deploying, releasing, product team, engineering team. But in indie space, the most successful teams or developers are the ones who have cracked this really well. I think Chirag, I would definitely like to give a shout out is because these guys understand like developing is still 1/5 or like 25% of the equation. Developing is distinct from like developing, building for your target platforms and then testing on your target hardware like OS hardware, all that. Deploying, if you have a multiplayer game, even non-multiplayer single player games these days have a lot of downloadable content that got to go sit in a CD and on some cloud, patch updates, all of those are supported from that kind of infra. So that all goes in some cloud provider, service provider layer. And then you're releasing via these distribution platforms like Apple App Store, Play Store, easier, Steam, whatever it is, right? And they all bring in a lot of not just technical constraints, but also creative challenges. Like if you're going to Play Store, for example, then you can't market your game. If you're building, for example, very specifically a shooter, you can't market it as a like a very violent shooter. You can't show images of guns killing people, even though that's what you're gonna end up doing in the game, right? And then it brings a lot of creative challenges that travel all the way backward into the development stage. And then we a lot of time end up in a place where like if only we knew better. So even though we are focused on that, that's where we are most proficient. Of having awareness and acknowledgement that all of these stages exist is really critical because we have to follow all of these phases to end up in the hands of player, which is like consumer is the king, players are the king for game developers. So this is very critical. Being conscious about this pipeline. This is from an internal resource that we've developed in the studio, and we do this kind of talk a lot for product people and engineering people when they are joining our team. But I personally felt like this is really applicable in terms of like a mental model that we can adopt as an independent developer. That development is fine, but let's also be conscious about the other stages that we gotta go through in order to reach to the hands of players. Then something again very macro of a topic. I think as of today, only now we are starting to see like medium-sized to large-sized team trying to give a bigger, more complex genre shot. Mumbai Gullies, Indus, I think Mayhem Studios building another battle royale, UGW. But none of these products are just out there yet. We can talk a lot more, reasonably about how they were built. But this is something very critical that we personally figured out that works tremendously well when you're working even like relatively small to medium to large size team is the model of sprints. It's like time-bound, goal-oriented process wherein you group people together. Even if a programmer, an animator, 3D artist, 2D artist, sound designer, you group all of them together for a very specific goal in a bigger picture, and you let them execute with a lot of autonomy, creative, resources, creative freedom. This works really, really well, and this is more of the again product of understanding the game development culture. It's a lot about openness, radicalness. So those things we when we like try to translate into its functional definition, we came up to this model. Sprints, again, people coming from product management, project management, production. This is more like again goes in the domain of agile methodology of building software, building anything, any kind of product. So this is our adoption of it. Like it involves planning upfront, like for a very specific window, like what kind of feature we are building. For example, this week itself, we were testing vehicles in Battle Royale that we planned 4 weeks back. You just need to set one big specific goal in a bigger picture and then have X number of people get to it. As simple as that. Don't need to make it really complex. It's really applicable for even small teams like 2 to 4 people. Like I think BMS team in the back has done it really, really well. They I think I'm running short on time. So I'll try to go really, really quick, but I will still do a shout out for BMS team. Aruna, who is their founder, I think talks a lot on the Discord, IGDA Discord itself, about the agile methodology, good notes to be taken from there. But something to be very well aware of, that agile methodology is tremendously useful for building games at any scale, right? Playtests are really critical, not just ours is a multiplayer game, so scale matters a lot, right? So we do have a team of about 50 people now, and even though game is like 60 to 100, we never are able to play within ourselves, including the entire QA team, to be able to tell like how exactly this game is translating for real players. We add some AI bots in there. But playtest is really critical to understand what you're building. A lot of times, again, getting bottlenecked in the initial idea, creative ideas, technical aspects, and losing sight of the bigger picture is a very easy way to fail in these things. You have to every day be able to have some part of the game that you're actually experiencing in the hands, your hands, or some of your peers' hand, colleagues' hand. That's really, really critical. Again, good notes to be taken from a lot of the things that have been shared on the IGDA channel. Finally, very, very critical. I've seen this done really well in our small indie dev community a lot. I would take one really important name. Zan from Overhead Studios, all the way back in I think 2014, he was at the IGDC at that time. I guess it was NGDC, NASCOM GDC. I saw him sitting in a corner of a door and getting a lot of players. He was working Asura at that time, I think. It's like a roguelite RPG game based on Indian Mytho. And he had players gathered around. He was sitting on the floor casually and just having them playtest the game. You would think like basically what's happening here is it like a playtest, community, nothing. It's like very impromptu, right? But that's the very essence of being a game developer and building a community. You don't have to like ours, like obviously are driven by a bit more of marketing budget. We are able to do some things a bit more fancier. Also because it gets the right vibe, multiplayer game, esport theme, all that. But just having that essence, being able to capture that essence is really critical. Building the community for a game as you're building the game. You can't have it while after you've done it. Then the train has long left the station. So thinking about community is really, really critical. And this is it finally. In the last, I would like to say a few important words. And because I had to travel from Pune to Delhi, so there's this game dev scenes now coming up and being done really, really well. Like I think there's an elite game dev group all the way back in Bangalore. There's some good stuff happening. Nikhil, Vaibhav, these guys are in Mumbai space. They are doing some fun stuff, activities, get-togethers, those things are happening. In Delhi, obviously Chirag is always there. Chirag, Rakshak, just these guys are doing things really, really well that we missed when we were there. So really grateful for these guys that this is there, and I would definitely like to take a chapter, no pun intended, all the way back to Pune, like have something going on in there as well, because it doesn't really exist there. Although Raji is that one game, Nodding Head Studio, those guys are still in Pune, but still, I think they're just nodding head and Then there's some few other mobile game studios are there. But this culture is the most important part of building games well, building games at scale, building games with soul, you know. So this is the what we have to like value a lot and like take it forward. This is all it takes. If you are a one-man team, you are a 100-man studio. This culture, this spirit is all that's needed, and it's going really, really well. And you know, it's being preserved really well because again, we guys like these guys didn't have it when we started. So definitely, it's more of like we sometimes don't take things for granted. Okay, we are game devs. There's some circle that exists. Let's go attend it. But only like 5-6 years back, this was not a thing. So thanks a lot, Josh. Thanks a lot, Chirag, for making it happen. I have something that I want to give to these guys right here. If you guys can come here, you know. Please. Yeah. Not really. I don't have that budget just yet. So when we started building Indus, you know, even now when I was interacting to some of the people on the floor, they were like, USP क्या है game का? ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं है except कि market still wants to play a BR. But our touch is कि Indo-futuristic setting में बना रहे हैं. जब sci-fi के बारे में सोचते हैं तो बहुत dystopian, post-apocalyptic वो सब चीजें आती हैं थीम में, right? Genre का definition वैसा चला जाता है. We believe that India is a lot about optimism, aspirations. So our version of futurism for India, like very much like how you would see Wakanda and how they projected their future would look like without, you know, imperialism. So this is what Indo-futurism is about. That's the main, you know, creative vision and the soul that we have put in there. Not कि मतलब BR है या क्या है, TDM extraction and not those parts. So the whole idea of making from India for the world is about cultural export. Like games as a medium can be a cultural export. So this is what we are doing. This is the lore book of the game that covers a lot of the background of how guns were made, what manufacturers are there, characters. If you can just open it. I'm like running out. Obviously, you guys can also check with these guys if they let you. I don't know. Like if you can just quickly. I think there's some really fun things in here. Yeah, these characters, right? This Hathi one is called Big Girl Sartaj. So these creations is what we believe is the true identity of ours. That the brand value of game developers from India. That what can we do? Again, I come from this place. Like literally, my parents live here. Even though I have been in Pune for the last 10 years, this is what I have been building in the back. And I'm just trying to come here and give back, try to share some things back to the community. The words, that line that I'm gonna say right after this, don't quote me on it just yet, but the technology of Indus that powers it, again, just for a disclaimer, I think Indus runs within Unity, but on a parallel engine that we spent 1.5 years building. A major subset of that engine is gonna be open source for the rest of the community, a lot of which will be released later this year. So this is our way of giving back to the community. And with that, thanks a lot guys, thanks Just, thanks Chirag.
Thanks Suji, thanks for the gift and thanks for coming down all the way from Pune and sharing. Yeah, because we made him postpone his flight as well. But thanks for coming all the way from Pune and sharing this with us. We are looking forward to this. And
I just want to. It's a public. I'm not asking anything.
You can take just 2 questions.
This is the question is sharing an experience, an incident basically. So I was in Finland 2 months back, showcasing my game here. And somebody from Europe was seeing it and he was praising the game and he asked me this question that why aren't good games coming from India?
Right.
And I said, dude, wait. I showed him the trailer of Indus.
Wow.
I said, India is knocking on the world's door, just wait.
Wow. That's your answer. Thanks a lot. There is a question in the back.
I have 2 small questions. One, you talked about DevOps pipeline, right?
We think about the engine, we don't usually think about. So, in a similar sense, there's a business pipeline as well. I would like to ask, did you get some kind of a support or tax incentives and things like that that vision may add?
So actually, I've been answering a lot around when I started, I said, somewhere in the presentation I mentioned, I won't use the word studio just yet, but company. There is a strong distinction that we figured out that exists between company as a structure, corporate structure, and studio. Studio is a lot more about functionality, output, and culture, and company. Even Super, right? Super is the company. Indus itself is a studio that is making a game called Indus as well. We are very creative about namings. But basically, that studio distinction is where the answer lies. So a lot of that we try to solve. These are logistics and operations things, right? So all of that does exist. Please catch me around. I can answer this in a lot more depth. But definitely, that was the whole idea here. We all can maybe think about how we function. In Indus internally, we have this saying that the more valuable than the game is the process through which we made the game. So that is what it's all about. Do catch me, I can maybe share some more internal insights on that.
One more thing, is the hardcover book available as a collector's edition or something?
Not just yet, but it's soon, we are opening a sub store within America.
I'll auction mine.
There's one more, I think. I think
Guys, you can catch
yeah, please.
later because we are running out.